On March 2, 2026, Alysa Liu walked into 30 Rockefeller Center in New York City with 2 Olympic gold medals around her neck and sat down on the Today Show. She had been awake for most of the previous 2 weeks. She had won 2 gold medals in Milan. She had flown home on a commercial Delta flight and walked through a tunnel of gold balloons at San Francisco Airport. She had eaten tiramisu at a restaurant in Alameda and told the owners it was the best tiramisu she had ever had. She had done interviews with NBC and E! and CBS and Time magazine and the Today Show itself and approximately every other media outlet that could get a camera in front of her face. She had watched her Instagram follower count go from 200,000 to 7 million in 12 days. And on this morning at Rockefeller Center, a reporter looked at her and asked a question that has been asked about youth sports in America for decades without anyone ever answering it with the kind of authority that comes from having actually lived the answer. What advice do you have for parents who push their kids to stay in a sport when the kids want to quit? Alysa Liu did not pause. She did not think about the phrasing. She did not add qualifiers or caveats or the kind of diplomatic hedging that most public figures use when they know what they actually think is going to be controversial. She said one word. Don't. Then she said, it does not work. The kid knows himself pretty well. And it is just never good to force anything. The clip has been shared more times than almost anything else from her entire post-Olympic media run. Because that word, in that voice, from that specific person, is not a parenting opinion. It is a testimony. It is the condensed autobiography of a girl who was started in skating at 5 because her father liked Michelle Kwan, who became a national champion at 13, who went to the Beijing Olympics at 16 and came home and retired and said the sport had felt like a job. Who spent 2 years finding out who she actually was, and who came back on her own terms and won the gold that nobody could take from her because this time she was the one who decided she wanted it. Don't. From her, it means everything. To understand the full weight of that word, you have to understand what forcing looked like in Alysa Liu's specific story. Arthur Liu started taking her to the Oakland Ice Center when she was 5 years old because he was a Michelle Kwan fan and he had a daughter who might have talent and he wanted to find out. The first lesson led to a group lesson. The group lesson led to a skills test. The skills test led to a private coach asking whether Alysa wanted to try private lessons. And from there it became what it became. Arthur said in the 2026 60 Minutes special, I spared no money, no time. I just saw the talent. He was at practices tracking the speed of her jumps with a radar gun. He was not a passive presence in her training. He was deeply, completely invested in what she was building because he believed in what he saw. And by every objective measure he was right. She became a national champion at 13. The youngest U.S. women's champion in history. She went to the Olympics at 16. And she also developed PTSD. She said the sport felt like a burden. She described being a dress-up doll, someone other people put into costumes she did not want to wear to perform programs she did not choose. She said she had no control. She said skating had become disgusting to her and she wanted nothing to do with it. She did not tell Arthur she was retiring before she posted about it. She said afterward, I did not really ask my dad's opinion when I decided to retire. After all, it is my life. That sentence. After all, it is my life. From a 16-year-old who had been in the sport for 11 years. That is the sentence of someone reclaiming something that had been taken from them gradually, piece by piece, over a decade. By a system that loved her talent more than it understood her personhood. When the Today Show reporter asked her what parents should do when kids want to quit, she already knew the answer from the inside of it. She was not theorizing. She was reporting from the experience of being the kid. Don't. The second quote from that Today Show appearance is the one that is just as important as the first but has gotten less attention. And it is worth giving it the space it deserves. A producer had dug up a letter that Alysa had written to her future self in 2019, when she was 15. She had written it for ESPN. She had not thought about it since. The anchor Dylan Dreyer read the letter aloud on camera and then asked Alysa what she would tell her younger self now that she had achieved everything that letter had been reaching toward. Alysa looked genuinely surprised the letter even existed. She said, "I wrote that? When? Where?" And then she composed herself. And she said something that nobody expected. "Nothing." She said, "Nothing, nothing. I would not want to tell her a thing. Because I do not want anything to change. She will figure it out. She will go through it." Think about what that answer is. A 20-year-old woman who went through PTSD and burnout and a retirement and a 2-year identity reconstruction and a comeback that required her to completely rebuild her relationship with the sport she had been forced to love, saying she would not change a single moment of it. Not because it was not hard. It clearly was. But because she does not want to disrupt the path. Because the person she became was made by every part of that journey. Including the parts that almost broke her. I do not want anything to change. She will figure it out. That is not passive resignation. That is a deeply earned faith in the process of becoming. A 20-year-old who has already been through enough to know that suffering, when you get through it, does not leave you diminished. It leaves you with something you could not have gotten any other way. She also said something on the Today Show about her mental health that is the most direct she has ever been about the state she was in during the years before her retirement. She said, "My mental health used to be horrible. Like absolutely horrible. Not difficult. Not challenging. Horrible." That is a specific word from a person who does not use words carelessly. She said she took a break. She did something new. She moved on to a different part of her life. She focused on school and friendship. And she said honestly, that is the thing that grounded me. Surrounding herself with the right people was crucial, she said. She went on her first vacation. She got her driver's license. She learned to drive and was finally able to go out and hang out with her siblings and do things. These are the most ordinary experiences imaginable. A vacation. A driver's license. Hanging out with siblings. Things that millions of teenagers do without a second thought. For Alysa Liu they were revelations. Because she had never had them. From 5 years old to 16 she had gone to the rink. The rink and back. The rink and competitions. The rink and training camps. 11 years with almost none of the ordinary texture of a regular adolescence. The vacation was not just a vacation. It was the first time her time had ever belonged entirely to herself. She said her current formula for staying mentally strong is simple. Getting a good night's sleep and talking to the people she loves often. She said sleep is the biggest thing. She needs at least 8 hours to feel good. She eats 3 full meals. She goes to the gym. She breathes during competition because breathing is so important and they are so stamina-based and she does not really need to tell herself much more than that. That is the whole system. 8 hours of sleep. 3 meals. People she loves. And breathe. She went from absolutely horrible mental health to the calmest competitor on the biggest stage in her sport. And the method was not a sports psychologist's 12-step program. It was the most basic human maintenance in the world, done consistently, for the first time in her life. There is a third quote from her week of interviews that has not gotten enough attention alongside the don't and the nothing. It is the one from 60 Minutes that went viral on X and has been shared by people who have never watched a figure skating program in their lives. She said, "I love struggling, actually. It makes me feel alive." The internet grabbed that sentence and ran with it in the way the internet does when something unexpectedly precise arrives from an unexpected source. The replies ranged from "this girl is built differently" to "someone bottle whatever she has and sell it to that is the most mentally healthy thing I have ever heard a 20-year-old say." What she meant by it is clear in the full context. She is not performing toughness. She is describing the specific experience of someone who understands that difficulty is information. That the moments when things are hard are the moments when you find out what you are actually capable of and what you actually want. That the struggle is not the obstacle between you and the life you want. It is part of the process of building it. She also said in the same stretch of interviews, winning is not all that, and neither is losing. It is just something that happens. It is the outcome. But what matters is the input and the journey. That is the philosophy of someone who has already won. Who has already lost. Who has already retired and come back. Who has already been at the bottom and built her way back up without a blueprint. Who understands from her own experience that the medal at the end is the least interesting part of the story. Winning is not all that. From the woman holding 2 Olympic gold medals. That hits differently than it would from anyone who had not earned the right to say it. She also said in a CBS News interview this week something that the next generation of skaters specifically needs to hear. Young girls who are watching her clips on TikTok and dreaming about doing what she did and being told by coaches and parents that if they want to get there they need to follow in her footsteps exactly. She said, "Don't try to be the next me." She said she hoped she inspired other athletes to pursue their passions. But she wanted to remind everyone to be their authentic selves. She said, at the end of the day, take some time for yourself. Spend time alone. I think it really helped me. And then she said taking breaks is okay. And sometimes taking a step back is what is needed to see the full picture. Do not try to be the next me. That sentence is doing the same work that don't did for parents. It is telling every person who is looking at her story as a template to follow that the template is not transferable. That what made her story work was not the specific sequence of events. It was the specific act of becoming herself. Of figuring out who she was when nobody was making her be anyone in particular. And you cannot copy that. You can only do your own version of it. She also said in the same week, I do not know if I really want to be a role model. But I guess I am. So if anything I just urge people to spend time with themselves. Try new things. Gain experience. And then decide for themselves what they want to do. The reluctant role model. Urging her audience to do the one thing she could not do for 11 years. Decide for themselves. Here is what the full arc of Alysa Liu's media week looks like when you put all of it together. She sat down at 30 Rockefeller Center and told parents not to force their kids. She told a TV audience that her mental health used to be absolutely horrible and that sleep and love and ordinary human connection were what fixed it. She said she would not tell her younger self a single thing. Because she does not want to change the path. She said she loves struggling because it makes her feel alive. She said winning is not all that. She said do not try to be the next her. And when a reporter asked how she stays so calm under Olympic pressure, the girl who photographed her coaches on her phone during warm-up and gave her teammate a thumbs up 60 seconds before the biggest skate of her life said, "If I mess up and do a horrible program I would totally be okay with that actually. So there is nothing to be nervous about." She also said mistakes are beautiful too. She is 20 years old. She has 2 Olympic gold medals. 7 million Instagram followers. A world title defense in Prague in 3 weeks. A psychology degree in progress at UCLA. A father who tracked her jump speeds with a radar gun and whom she loves and has forgiven and fired from the team and kept in her life in the form that actually works. And she is sitting on national television telling parents don't force your kids, telling young athletes don't try to be the next me, telling anyone who will listen that sleep and love and being yourself are the whole system, and that the path through the hardest version of your life is the one worth taking even if you cannot see where it leads. She figured it out. She went through it. She does not want to change a thing. And she has one word for anyone who tries to shortcut that process for the person next to them. Don't.